Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. If you're a returning listener, it's great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, really glad you joined us. Hope you like what you hear. So we keep having awesome people come on the podcast. Today is no exception. We've got Serban coming on today. Serban came to the United States from Romania and built a great life for himself, but it was not without some struggle, some challenges, and he has pivoted. He was an engineer by trade, worked his way up from assembling on the assembly line to running projects for a big semiconductor company and burned out, wanted to change what he was doing. And so now he is a speaker, he is a coach, he offers a course, which is really interesting because he will tell you that he was afraid of public speaking when he started this whole process, and now it's literally his living. So he's a great guy. He's got a great message. He's a very captivating guy. He's got great stories to share with us and great lessons to share with us. So without further ado, let's bring Serban onto the program now. So Serban, welcome to Salty Ginger Talk. Thanks so much for joining us today.
It's great to be here. And Joe, I'm excited about our chat.
Me too. We had a great conversation several weeks ago, and I've really been looking forward to it. I think when we talked, I told you we have a wide variety, kind of eclectic group that comes onto the podcast, and we think it's so good when people can hear. It's most people are trying to get to the same goal of, I want to live a more fulfilling life. I want to live a happier life. I want to live a life with meaning and purpose. And, you've got a really interesting story to tell, and you do this full time now, starting from a very different place when you started. And I think
Mhm.
that really illustrates something we talk about all the time to our listeners, which is take action. You don't know where it's going to lead you, but it's going to lead you somewhere good if you consistently take action. But you've got a wrinkle to that and what you talk about because you're kind of an expert on burnout and kind of reinvigorating yourself after that. So, got a lot of great stuff to cover. Really excited about the conversation. If you wouldn't mind just giving the listeners a brief background of you, and then we can jump into the more technical stuff because I'm really excited for you to share your message with the listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm excited about our discussion. For those who can already tell, this is not an Arizona accent. If you've wondered, from Arizona. I've been here for 20 years, but originally been born. I was born in Romania. And I came here 20 years ago with a lot of drive, a lot of ambition to make a better life for myself. And I've aggressively pursued that. I've worked many jobs, odd jobs, all of those to achieve what I thought was the American dream. 10 years ago, I thought I had, only to find myself completely drained, exhausted, burned out, like you said, and to where I've fumbled through life for a few years, not really knowing what I wanted to do. Finally, we can dive into it a little bit more. Discovered a different mindset, a different view on life that has helped me propel into living a more fulfilling life where I've accelerated in my career. I've also pivoted in the passions that I have to the point where now I am a professional speaker helping other professionals like myself who are in that journey of feeling exhausted, feeling tired, to give them some hope, give them some light that is at the end of the tunnel to help them not feel burned out, but feel a lot more fire and success in their lives. I always say that I'm wanting to help others go from feeling burned out to burning bright. And this discussion, hopefully it lights a good type of fire under our audiences behind.
I love that. And by the way, you're on Salty Ginger Talk, so whatever language you feel comfortable with using, it's free reign here on Salty Ginger Talk. So we don't censor anything the salty is because I personally curse like a sailor left to my own devices. Now I've coached children, I've been in the professional world for a long time, so I don't have to use that language, but I prefer to use that language when I can. I think it really elicits the emotional response that's necessary sometimes on topics. But you should feel free to say what you want to say. With that said,
Understood.
if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about when you immigrated to the United States, kind of walk us through what that experience was like, because that had to be daunting to say the least, coming from Romania to the United States.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I'm sure many of your audiences have uprooted at one point or another in their lives, had to re-evaluate their lifestyle and decide to go in different states, different environments, different jobs, different houses, whatever. Mine was a little bit different, jumping from a totally different continent to here in America. It was 20 years ago. And it was a radical change just because I've seen America in movies and I've heard about how awesome it is, and just come in here to the country, and the first experience is walking into Phoenix in the middle of summer at 100 and some degrees,
Yeah.
feeling like the oven is hitting you in the face. But it was a it was a life-changing experience. America is the land of possibilities, and I do feel fortunate that I was able to come here, start to work, and make a life for myself. And while the change were quite dramatic, living home with my parents to come in here and housing myself with my brother, he gave me a mattress on his other side of the one-bedroom apartment that he was living, and we just started building from that point on.
I love it. That's awesome. I call it out for the listeners because it takes guts. It takes a lot of guts to do what Serban did. So, it shouldn't go without being recognized. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. You used to work in the semiconductor industry, did you not?
Yeah, for 20 years. Yeah, for from the moment I came here, I was started a low paying job as an assembler, can work my way up to where I got my engineering's diploma. I've started working at a larger semiconductor company as a technician, engineer, program manager, project manager, to ultimately in the last few years, I've worked as a full-time program manager for a large 20,000 plus company handling millions of dollars in projects, to where this year I decided to make a leap and speak professionally.
That's awesome. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's such a great story. It's literally the American dream of immigrating to the country, busting your ass and working your way
Mhm.
up and earning what you got. So, I think it's important to highlight with all of the kind of chaos that's going around our country now. And I'm not looking to drag us into a political conversation, but I would argue that most Americans really support immigration. There just needs to be some control around it. I think that's where it's been lacking. But like we've got a shining example right here, and I think it's important to call that out. That my family came from Ireland back in the 1800s, and
Mhm.
so I just happen to be a little further down the line than other people who immigrated here. But that's how my family got here too. So, but that's great. So you work your way up, like you literally were assembling stuff, and then you're running pretty big chunks of the business. What made you decide to make the leap from what you were doing to going on your own full time and pivoting to a completely different industry?
Well, like I mentioned in the introduction, coming here to America, what I thought it was my dream was to own a home, have a badge at a company that's stable, earn an income, save for retirement, and go on those twice a year vacations, and maybe get a dog or something like that, and just live a happy life. And the first 10 years of my life, I've really pushed hard to achieve that dream, the American dream. And I thought that's all I needed to be happy and to be fulfilled. And by the 10th year, I ended up feeling completely emotionally bankrupt.
Mm.
I was still functioning, from the outside, things seemed fine. Everybody was, yeah, how you doing? I'm great. How are you? But inside, I'm like, I don't even know what great is anymore. Because I thought that burnout is the price that you have to pay for success. Like you just have to hustle more and more and more. And I think this is something that we all struggle with, to understand that just wanting more is not really the solution, and just continuously raising the bar for ourselves is not something that is gonna make us happy, especially if we don't realize what that happy is. So coming to America, achieving the dream, feeling emotionally bankrupt for 2, 3 years there, I just went into this dark phase where I did the bare minimum. So I was badging in and out at work, but I wasn't pushing myself anymore. Then, physically, sure, I would go to the gym, but not really try anything. And I wouldn't try to grow anymore, to expand like I did in the past 10 years. I just kind of was coasting in life. And I like to say that when you're coasting in life, the only direction that you can go is downhill.
I love that.
So I realized at that point, and this is one of the things that I talk about, a lot of people think that burnout is just exhaustion, like you're pushing yourself to the break, to your limits. But there's also the other side of it where you're not doing enough, where you're not growing, you're not expanding, you're not embracing challenges in life. And that is even more insidious because you don't realize that it's eroding at your self-esteem. And that's when, I had this low point, not knowing, wandering to life, lost. I don't know if you've ever been there where days just blend in and you're like, I don't know, is it Saturday? Is it Sunday? I was like, it feels like it's an just over and over again is the same day. And that's how I felt until, my wife gently nudged me to look into personal development. And she was gentle enough to kind of let me know in a nice way, like, hey, you need to take some ownership of the situation that you're in.
Sure.
Right? And it's very difficult because when you're in a low point, it feels like someone's kicking you even lower. But it was gentle enough where I got into personal development, listening to Les Brown and to Lewis House. Tom Bilyeu is one of my big mentors, Tony Robbins, to where I understood the notion that a growth mindset, that the idea of that we can do so much more than we think we can, is is actually real. Because up until that point, because I had that mentality from Romania, is like, you know, let me go back and just share that at just imagine yourself at 6 years old, standing in line, but with your parents for hours, but not for Taylor Swift tickets, but for ration bread.
Mm.
That's the environment that I came from. So just pushing myself because it was still under communism, I was always pushing myself to achieve more. And then I just fell flat. And in Romania, there's no such thing as, oh, you can achieve anything you want. Whatever you dream of, you can attain it. It was more like you can only do so much. But learning from Les Brown and getting into personal development, I got to a point where I understood that we can do so much more. Not only so much more, which opened
Mm.
up this whole new world for me. And I don't know if you've ever heard this before, right? Like whatever you think of, you can do. I didn't believe it. It's just a load of nonsense. What are you talking about? And I had to prove it to myself first. So I went on a journey to where I didn't run not even 3 miles in my entire life to starting to run marathons. And that kind of
Wow.
proved to me physically that I can do it, that I can do more than I think I can. And then I pushed myself professionally, where sometimes you get stuck into a job and you're like, I need to be happy with what I have. There's no way that I should strive for more. But then because I proved to myself physically, I ended up professionally getting some certification, project management certification, and really advancing in my career, where I was stuck there for 2, 3 years, where I was just coasting, that quiet quitting. That was me,
Mm.
to the point where I revamped my career and I went into project management. It's a job that I truly loved, and I'm good at it, talking to people. But the ultimate step, and I know I'm giving you a long-winded answer here, the ultimate step was that I challenged myself mentally because I was emotionally bankrupt. I thought to myself that I'm limited in certain ways. And it is in those moments that I recognize that we can do so much more if you're willing to step into your fears. And one of my biggest fear was speaking in front of people. I
Mm.
remember I was at a meeting, three people in the meeting, and they asked me to introduce myself. And I thought the the ground just lifted itself and I slip under the table. I felt so mortified. And I've always had this fear just because in Romania we've never had those show and tell and or anything to put us in front of an audience. And because I wanted professionally to advance as a program manager, I had to conquer my fear. And with the marathons, with the profession, with all this notion that you can do so much more than you think you can, I started to challenge myself in the art of speaking. And I went to a Toastmaster club, and you probably know this too, Joe. In anything that you're wanting to get good at first, you're just gonna suck. You're just gonna be really bad at.
Totally. That's exactly right. Yes.
And the problem is that we are so afraid to embarrass ourselves that we're not willing to step into that fear, to step into. So just think about what is it that you're fearful at and recognize that it's going to be bad at first. And that was the big mindset shift for me because I went into Toastmasters 5 years prior and I'm like, nope, never again. This is not for me. I'm not built like that. This is not something that I can do. I am totally afraid of all of this. And you probably experienced in any of the skills that you've acquired through the time the same kind of fear. But the more you step into it and the more you practice, the more you get good at it to the point where I started to notice that some of the things that I would be sharing from my own journey were impacting other people in ways that I didn't think possible. And that's when the spark came to be where I'm like, wow, I can go and talk to people and help them with whatever they're having. And that was the thing that changed everything in my career and really found I found my way into having some of the dreams that I've never dreamed of.
Oh my gosh, you said so many good things. I just want to go back and recap some of this stuff just to make sure people didn't miss it. First, if I remember right, Ceausescu was a Romanian dictator, was he not?
That's right. Yep, that's right.
Yeah. Did you live during the Ceausescu? Were you in Romania during the Ceausescu era?
Yeah, yeah. I was
Yeah.
7 years old when it fell. Man, the
Yeah, I
communists
mean
fell.
they literally put him to death by firing squad. He was a really a bad guy, just overall
Yep.
bad guy. Forget the communism part, which I fundamentally disagree with. It's never worked anywhere, but he was sitting at the top of a communist government. So you've got a completely corrupt, evil person running a communist government. So
Yep.
that's the environment that Serban and his family were living in. So when he says he went from one environment to a completely different environment, he ain't lying. Like that's 100% true. So like that's something else. For what it's worth, and this is just an anecdote, my brother-in-law is actually Romanian. His father was Romanian and he was
Very cool.
there during the same time. They live in London, England now. But so similar background. But another thing you talked about was your wife. So I can tell you that your wife really cares about you because the
Hmm.
people that really care about you will always tell you the truth, even if it's hard.
Hmm.
And that's what Shaban needed at that point was someone to step in and nudge him and go, "Hey, you're better than this. You can do better than you're doing now." And those are uncomfortable, can be uncomfortable conversations, but the people that care about you will absolutely have those conversations with you. I raised three sons with my wife, and I told all of my sons somewhere around 9 or 10 years old, I pulled each of them aside and said, "Look, I would like it if you like me, but that's not my primary role in your life. My primary role in your life is to be your father, and I'm the only one that can do it.
Hmm.
And if that means you hate my guts for 10 years, but you grow up to be good men and productive human beings, I would sign that deal right now. I'd love it if we could just get along for the next 10 years. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. but make no mistake about it, my primary role is to be the one that teaches you to be good men. And I love you enough that I'm going to tell you the truth and that you won't always like that. So you should just know that. That's why I'm doing it,
Mhm.
because I care about you. So kudos to your wife for doing what she did. And then you talked about your speaking and not liking to speak in front of people, and that you actually went towards the problem and took action towards the obstacle. And
Mhm.
that is the only way to get over your fears and your concerns. And I love that you talked about you're going to suck at it at first because it's you're gonna like that's just
Yeah.
how it is. The analogy I use on that is walking. So all of us as children learn to walk at some
Mhm.
point, but nobody stands up and just, sprints across the room the first time. They pull themselves up and sit around, look around, and then they try to stand up and fall down. They try to stand up and fall down. They'll try to take a step and fall down. At no point does anybody say, you know what? You're just not a walker. You're going to be a crawler.
Mhm.
You're just not good at it. So you should just give up. And we as kids don't ever think about it. We want to walk around because we see other people doing it. We're willing to go through that period that sucks so that we can walk and get around and
Mhm.
see what we want to see. But we lose that as adults. We worry so much about what other people think about us. And by the way, people we don't even know, people who don't give a shit about us. We
Right.
put so much value on these stupid opinions. Why do we care about what they think? So I think those are all just really good things you talked about that I wanted to recap for the audience. But man, that's just such good stuff. So
And
you
let
you're
me,
yeah, go
because
ahead.
you
Go ahead.
you've spurred one idea about you not being a buddy to your sons, but rather a father figure.
Mm,
It's it's interesting as we grow as adults, when we see and reflect on the things from the past. I've always had a very skewed view on my childhood because once the communists fell in Romania and we were struggling, there was a lot of turmoil, a lot of uncertainty. People were losing their jobs. There were no jobs. There was a lot of turmoil and uncertainty. And of course, at 7 years old, I wasn't too aware of these things, and my parents struggled. And one of the things that they had me and my brother do is we would go at my grandma's house at the countryside, and we would have to farm and help them farm potatoes. And I have to tell you that for 10, 15 plus years, I hated my parents dragging me to do that every year. It was I hated it with a passion, and I resented them for it. But
mm.
this is where the idea of a growth mindset, where we just pivot our view on things. I'm sure everybody's gone through something difficult in their lifetime. And there's two choices. One, you continue blaming that circumstance and feeling like you're a victim, or you can flip it around. And I remember when it dawned on me that when I came to the United States and I started the basic job of being an assembler, I was sitting at a desk and just putting together some medical equipment. And I thought to myself, wow, this is luxury. Like, how awesome is this that I don't have to put manure and rake the thing and put the potato and cover it and bend down like I'm an ostrich? It's like this, I made it. This is life. And all that to say is that it's a change in perspective that my parents instilled in me certain attributes that I really cherish and value now, like the idea of working hard and being consistent, because that's what really helped me be so intentional with everything that I do. So you being hard on your kids, I say you keep going.
I love that story. And, looking back on it, you probably wouldn't have survived without the potatoes, right? I mean, that was like survival for your family. That
Yeah.
was a lot of calories, especially you said, I know you've got at least one brother because you referenced him earlier. It's
Mhm.
hard to feed 4 or 5 people every day. Especially when you've got, I mean, think about the turmoil that happens. We've seen political systems change in countries over and over again, and that's usually a prolonged difficult process for the people that
Hmm.
live in that country. So, kudos to your parents, but you do what you got to do to survive. So it's kind of like, hey, I know you don't like, shoveling shit, but start shoveling the shit. It's
Yep.
it's how we eat, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Yep. Yep. I got to tell you, we ate potatoes about 7 times a week.
Yeah, right.
Every day was potatoes, and I gotta admit that I'm still eating potatoes every day. I love it.
I love you talking about, I made it. I'm putting these parts together and you're thinking you're living in the lap of luxury. So
Mm.
when my wife and I were first, we got married very young. I was 21, she was 19, and
Wow.
we had our first son like the right before our first anniversary. So she got
Wow.
pregnant about 3 months after we got married. So we just started our family really young, and I was working my way up. Very similar story to yours. I work in the food business and I worked in grocery stores. So I was a guy at the end of the check stand that would bag your groceries. I'd go out and grab carts from the parking lot. I'd count your bottles. I did whatever and worked my way up. I'm the CEO of a company now that owns and operates grocery stores. So you're not going to fool me in a grocery store because I've done every job in a grocery store. So if I have a store manager that says I can't do X, I'm like, yeah, you can because I did it. I can here. Let me show you. I know how to do it. But we were young. I was working my way up. I made zero money. I think I made 30 grand a year, and we were supporting a family of four or something like
Yeah.
that. And I was up for the promotion where like your money almost doubled when you got promoted. So it was like a big deal for our
Mhm.
family. And I got passed over for like 4 or 5 of these opportunities. And we kept waiting. And my wife had said, if you get passed over again, you got to find somewhere else to go. We can't just keep sitting here and waiting for this to happen. And so I knew there was a couple positions open and they were going to make the decision on a Friday. And so I happened to be off that day and I didn't want to sit around and wait for my phone to ring in case it didn't. So we
Uh-huh.
left. We actually took our kids and went to the beach. And, we just played on the beach. It was free. It just cost us the gas money to get to the beach. And this was back in the days, pre cell phone, pre all that stuff. And so we had an answering machine and I knew how to check the answering machine from calling from a payphone and
iPhone,
checking
yeah,
my answering
okay.
machine. So we get back into town, and I can see myself standing there doing this. We stopped at a McDonald's because it had a payphone there, and I checked the answering machine, and my district manager had called to tell me that I was promoted, and I swear to God, the first thought that popped in my head was, I can afford chips and salsa again. Because like we were on a budget so tight, like I hadn't had chips and salsa in 2 years or something like that. And that was the first thought that popped in my head was,
That's
woohoo,
crazy.
I can have chips and salsa again. I was so excited. We actually stopped and bought chips and salsa that night because we could afford to do it at that point. It's
That's
funny the
awesome.
things that pop in your head.
It's but I think there's lessons there, right? It's one you're there's a lot of sacrifice that you've done
Hmm.
to make that happen. And then you've worked hard. And this is one of the things that I noticed even in my success. Nothing happened overnight. Everything is just a continuous drip. And the more I put in the effort, the more I stay consistent, the more we are going to get what's ours. It's just a matter of staying the course and working hard.
Yeah, and you're right. It's those small, consistent actions that get you where you want to go. It would be awesome if there was some quantum leap or some escalator that took you right to where you wanted to go. It just doesn't exist. It's
Mhm.
those consistent actions over a long period of time. I call it the compound interest of life. So,
Mhm.
compound interest with money is really easy to understand. The money kind of compounds on itself, and you wind up making a lot of money if you let it sit there long enough. Compound interest of life works the same way. If you consistently take actions that lead you towards a spot, you'll get to that
Mhm.
spot. It might not happen the way you want it to. It might not happen at the rate that you want it to, but you'll get there if you just keep showing up all the time. And so yeah, I absolutely love that. You so how did you decide what to focus on? Because I looked at your website. I didn't take your test, but I'm hoping we can talk about your test a little bit, and we can get we'll put just so the audience knows. We always put all the links in the show notes, so you'll be able to get directly to Serban after the episode. You don't have to Google them or look them up, but it's really easy to get to them. But how did you decide that you were going to focus primarily on burnout and helping people both identify burnout and then kind of come back from burnout and reinvigorate themselves?
Yeah, the the idea was that when I had my burnout phase, when I went through right before my wife told me to check myself before I wreck myself.
Totally. Yep.
I, I was at a point in life where it just felt like I was lost. And I don't know if you've ever been there where you're wondering, is this it? This is
Sure.
what life's all about. There's
I've been
nothing
there
else.
lots. Absolutely. I've been there lots. You bet.
Yeah. Everybody's been at one point or another in some circumstance where they realized that whatever they were chasing wasn't it. For me, I'm going to backtrack a little bit, and I got to tell you that the American dream that I chased for 10 years, and this is the reason why I burned out, was that I found out that that dream wasn't even mine. I was climbing the wrong mountain.
Mm,
Come to find out, and after doing some soul searching and becoming more aware that as we got out of the communist era, my parents lost their jobs. There were turmoils there. So for them, the dream was to own their own house, their own apartment, have a steady job that they're not going to lose it, and save for retirement so they can retire with dignity. And that was it. And that's the dream I pursued. And oftentimes we find ourselves chasing other people's dreams.
mm.
And I was doing all the right things, but for the wrong reasons. And that's one of the reasons why I felt lost afterwards, because I'm like, wow, what is it next for me? And that's when I really had to do a lot of soul searching. And I see this as a common problem is people ask me all the time, like, Serban, how do I find my passion? I don't know what I'm passionate about. And for me, it's a lot of exploration. Like you have to ask yourself, like, what is it that it's interesting to you? What is it that it sparks some kind of an energy that you're excited about, that it's for an extended period of time? Because I've know people who are excited about something, they jump in, they're all in for 3 months, and they're like, I'm bored. I got to do something else. So
Mm.
you have to find something that's interesting, that's exciting, and that's for the long time, that you love it to do it, even if you wouldn't succeed. That's the way you find your passion. And in my own struggles and in my own soul searching, that's the recipe I followed. And speaking came at random because all I wanted to do is help people that are in my situation, that don't know what to do with their life. They feel lost, they feel burned out, they're just under a lot of stress, emotional stress also, not just physical stress, and they don't know how to proceed in their lives. But of course, the avenue that I had to do it is like I have to get in front of other people and I have to speak.
Mm.
So that's where the speaking with the burnout and the helping others just live a more fulfilling, authentic, burning bright instead of burning out came out of, and just helping them with these tools and the things that I've done that really helped me feel like I'm living a more authentic, a more fulfilling, a more joyful life.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. And yeah, I went through your website in some detail to kind of understand it better. So you actually offer on your website a test for people to take. Can you talk a little bit about how you put that together and what you're testing them for, what they're testing themselves for?
Yeah, it was fascinating. Now with the advent of AI, it's a lot simpler to do these things, but it's
Mm,
also very cool because I know when I was struggling with my own burnout, my own stress, I wish I had someone to help me. And I created this website. It's very basic. There's a 10 question there with a yes and no. You go in, and depending on what you answer, it tells you like, oh, you're moderately stressed. Oh, you're severely stressed. You plug in your email, and then with the help of AI and the answers that you put yes to, it sends you an automatic 4-step process tailored to you to help you with some stress relief. And it's not overly complicated. It's not too much to do. It's just like, here, you need to put your phone down when you're waking up. Don't reach for your phone right away. Or you need to get some sleep. Or you need to learn how to prioritize better. Whatever the struggle that you have that you answer to the quiz,
Mm.
that's the targeted tools that you're gonna get right away.
Wow, that's really cool. I'm gonna have to go back on and take the test because, uh, yeah, like you talked about, it's very, you can get really myopic when you're the one that's in the situation. It's hard to see kind of the
Mhm.
bigger picture, to pull yourself up out of it and look at the bigger picture. Like you're fortunate your wife stepped in and said, "Hey, I'm looking at this from the outside and I'm not seeing good stuff. Like you need to take some action here. Something's off."
Yeah.
But we can make the choice to like take this test, and that can be the impetus for you thinking about things differently. And you've referenced it a couple of times about growth mindset, and I love that. We actually did a podcast talking about the difference between growth mindset and fixed mindset.
Mhm.
It'd be great if, in your words or from your view, you could explain the difference to our listeners and kind of how you, when you work with people, how you kind of coach them on how to go from one to the other or how to focus on having a growth mindset.
Yeah, and this is one of the biggest transformation that has helped me because when I was struggling and I I felt like the world was out to get me and it was against me. The economy is not how it's supposed to be. They're not giving me enough opportunities, and my boss is not promoting me the way I want him to promote me. And all of these things, I realize now, looking back, that I was pointing the fingers outwards.
Mm,
Like everybody else is responsible for my life. And that's hard to control. It's not something that you can do. So yes, there's certain circumstances that are affecting you. Yes, there's hard times. And just like you said, in the grand scheme of things, if you look at it differently, that you can take charge of your life. And instead of saying, I can't do this, you just move to I can't do this yet and really have that mindset shift like, yes, my job may suck right now. I am under a lot of pressure. I am under a lot of stress, but I can do something about it. There's an empowerment to the idea of I can't because of the external factors, or I can because of what I'm capable of. And everybody has gone through hard times. Everybody has struggled with something. And yet here we are, still standing, still moving forwards. There's all these turmoils that are happening in the world, all these different things that have happened throughout centuries, yet still we are. Still here we are.
right.
And it's just a matter of understanding that in the long term, if you're looking to do something more with your life, you are capable of doing so. It's just a matter of putting that time and effort that we already talked about.
Yeah. Yeah, love that. And one of the things I try to explain to people is, do you have control over it? If you don't, if you can't
Mhm.
control it, it is completely useless to spend any time, energy, or effort thinking about it or complaining about it or worrying about it because by definition, you can't control it. So let's just take the economy because you said you use the economy as a great example, right? You don't control the macroeconomic environment of the United States. I don't, nobody does. It's a
Mhm.
conglomeration of things and circumstances and variables. And I don't set monetary policy. I don't set tax rates. I don't have control over any of those things. So, what is the point of me lamenting about the economic environment in which I'm operating in right now? I can't control
Yeah,
it. So I should
awesome.
spend my time, effort, and energy on things I can control. Like I love to, and I don't want to take us too far off course, but I forgot to ask you about this earlier. I love that your kind of epiphany and your path out of the mindset started with, or at least was contributed greatly to, by running, by marathon running, because by achieving physical feats it trains your brain to think differently. And you don't even know that it's going on while it's happening. But it's not a coincidence that you took on running and went from never run 3 miles before to running marathons to the fact
Mhm.
that your mindset changed along with that process because you're building, I call it building reps. You're just building repetitions. So you go out for a run. Oh, I knocked that out. I did a mile run. Then I did a mile and a quarter run. Then I did a 5K 3 months later. And you just keep moving the bar a little bit. And pretty soon you're running marathons. And then your
Mhm.
mind will take that experience and go, wait a minute, this is going to suck. But remember what we did with running? Remember we couldn't
Yeah.
run before and now we're running marathons? I could apply that same thought process here. Why can't I just do it
Awesome.
here? So
Yep.
I love that.
By the way, so there's three signs of burnout. One is the physical and emotional exhaustion. There's also the toxicity, the cynicism, and the third one that you've alluded to is a feeling of lack of control.
Mm.
And one of the biggest things in that lack of control is worrying. And it's funny that you said that letting go of the things that we cannot control, because I often like to cite a study that was done at Penn State where they took people with anxiety disorder and they asked them to write down everything that they worry about and track those things that they're worried about. And once after a few weeks, I don't remember exactly how many weeks, they had a review. And what they found out is that 91% of the things that they worry about, they never happen. 91%.
Right.
And then the 9% that actually do is not even as bad as we think we can. So I every time I work with someone, when I do a workshop, I ask them to list off all the things that you're worried about from A to C. From, did I leave my oven on? Is my cat plotting against me? Is the economy is going into dumpster? World War III is coming? Whatever you can think of, and ask yourself, can you do something about that? Because if you can't, then what's the point of giving space and energy to that point, to that worry, right? If you're a legislator and you're passing laws, sure, worry about the economy. If you're not,
Mm.
then just let it go and look at those things that you can control. Because once you narrow that list, you realize that, oh, I have a few things that I can really focus my energy, and that's when the stress level diminishes, your anxiety level goes down, and then you get excited because you're all of a sudden the list that you were having in your head is so much smaller that you can actually tackle it.
Yes, I absolutely love that. So it's my wife and I are interesting as a couple. We've been together 33 years and we're very different as it relates to anxiety. I have I've naturally wired to have very little anxiety. I've never, even
Mhm.
as a kid, I didn't worry about a lot of
Mhm.
things. That's not good or bad. It's not a value judgment. It's just how I personally am wired. And my wife worries about a lot of things. She has a high level of anxiety and has since she's was born. And so early in our relationship, she would be really worried about whatever, X, Y, or Z. Pick your subject, right? She worried about it all. And so we would do the exact exercise that you just talked about. And it was just dumb luck. It was just me trying to understand
Uh-huh.
where her mind was so I could help her. That's all I was trying to do was help her. And I would say, so what is it you're worried about? And she would say X. And I would say, no, no, I need you to explain exactly what it is about
Mhm.
X that you were. I need word for word what's going on in your head. And so she would say it out loud. And my next question would be, okay, then what? Let's just assume that what you just described happens.
Yep.
What's the worst possible outcome of that? And like, we'll use public speaking, right? Because like that's something that most people are afraid. It's a Jerry Seinfeld joke. It's one of my favorite jokes. He said on a survey, the number one fear on the survey that they did of however many people was public speaking. Number two was death. So if
Mhm.
you use that logic, that means if you go to a funeral, you'd rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy. And clearly
Yep.
that's not true, but it really illustrates the point, right? So I'm afraid of looking stupid. I'm like, okay, so you look stupid, then what? She said, well,
Mhm.
everyone would laugh at me and think I'm stupid. Okay, then what? Well, then I guess it'd be over. So let me just make sure I understand. The thing that's keeping you up at night is worrying what a bunch of people who you don't know that don't know you what they think for 10 seconds of your life that you'll probably never see again. That's what we're worried about. And when you name it like that and you kind of lay out the sequence of events that worst case scenario could lead to, it's just not worth it. And that resonates to your point. Once you confront it and you label it and you get it out in the open, it becomes
Mhm.
obvious that it's not worth the time and energy that you're spending on it. And I was just lucky, we just was dumb luck asking these questions, trying to help understand my wife so I could help her work through that stuff. Now,
Yeah.
the flip side of that, like I'm the flip side of that. So like I'm not courageous. I'm pretty fearless. And I don't say that in a bragging way in any way, shape, or form, because that being fearless creates its own set of issues. I wind up in a lot of situations that I was too stupid to recognize because I wasn't afraid of them, and I should have been. And so it's not all roses and rainbows when you're not afraid of stuff. It can get you in real problems. And that has happened to me more than once. So I just always try to clarify that for people because I think when I say that I'm fearless, they think, oh, listen to this guy. No, I'm not saying it as a brag. It's actually a kind of a character defect in some instances where it'd be good for me to be afraid of stuff when I'm not. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a good balance that you can strike because I'm more like your wife, and probably this is why I talk about stress because I everything that I talk about I'm utilizing myself. And as a program manager, handling a project that has hundreds of people,
Yeah.
there's a lot to worry about. And probably
Mm,
that's one of the reasons why I was so good at it is because I worry about this and that. But I there's a level that you need to worry. It's like you ask yourself, is there something that you can do about it? And like you said, what I don't know if you know this, but what you've utilized is CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, where you're like, what's the worst outcome? What's the best outcome? And what's the reality, like right in the middle. And once you present those and you really think through it, then the anxiety level diminishes and the worry also diminishes. So it's, I guess, you do it uninadvertently. You're doing CBT with your wife.
yeah, I got totally lucky. I would love to. I know it now, but I'm 53 and a lot more experience and blah, blah, blah. But 30 years ago, it was just dumb luck. I mean, like even a broken clock is right twice a day. I just got lucky, but
Nice.
it worked. It worked out pretty well for both of us. So I'm glad that it worked out the way that it did. So, what are some symptoms or signs that our listeners could look out for that should tell them, hey, I got something off here and I need to take a hard look at what I've got going on. What are some warning signs?
Yeah, and it's it's a good question because oftentimes we don't even know that we're in the midst of burnout. And I just I know there was a 2024 study that showed that 65% of professionals report moderate to severe levels of burnout, but they
Mm,
don't even know. Right?
mm,
Even when I was pushing towards that American dream, I didn't know. I was just hustling as much as I could. And I thought, hey, exhaustion is just the price for success. You just have to run yourself to the ground to make the money, to make the payments, to want to get more. So first and foremost, just know that if you're feeling some type of uneasiness, is you're not alone. Second one is, of course, exhaustion, where you're so tired that you're trying to go to bed, and but you're tired and wired, so you can't even go to bed because you have so many thoughts in your head. So physical, emotional, and um, mental exhaustion. Those
mm.
are the key characteristics. But then there's subtle signs, right? Like the one that we talked about where you feel like you're out of control. And just life is just you're a rag doll and you're just tossed around, not even being in charge of any of your schedule. You feel like I just have to run from taking the kids to school to going to work to coming home to picking them up to making the food to going back to bed so that I can wake up and do it all over again. When you feel like there's all of your time is out of your control, that is a very clear indication that you're heading towards the cliff. And the most insidious and silent one is a level of cynicism where you start complaining and being dissatisfied with everybody and everything around you. This one, it just starts off by, making off comments like, that person is just rolling my eyes at it. Like, oh, here's another email. Those types of things to where you're vocal in a meeting and you're upset at everybody. And, I'm surrounded by a bunch of numbnuts. They don't know what they're doing. I have to do everything for myself. Or my boss is against me. They don't know what they're doing, and I have to do everything. So that the cynicism part is very detrimental, just because it spreads like a virus. So I don't know how often you get a chance to talk to those pessimistic folks that they're trying to be real with you, and you can tell after 5 minutes that you're exhausted by their complaining. Yeah, that person is heading towards the cliff, and that is a clear sign, and it's very contagious, especially when you're in a corporation and you have one person that's like that. Misery loves company. So now there's two getting together, and all of a sudden it spreads like wildfire. So just being aware of those negative interactions that you have with some people, that you realize that they're energy vampires, where you walk out of that conversation and that meeting and you're just drained, or you're complaining yourself. Those are very indicative signs that you are heading towards the burnout.
Got it. That's great. Thank you so much for walking through that. It's interesting on the cynicism part and the kind of the pessimists. My standard question in those situations is, what are you doing about it?
Mhm.
That's what I always ask is so, and the other thing I'll tell people is, don't come to me with a problem that you have no solution for. So I'm happy to listen to problems and I'm happy to help you brainstorm other solutions. But to
Right.
just come throw up your problems on my desk and expect me to solve them for you, that's not what I do. That's not what anyone does. It's up to you to come up with at least one solution. What's a solution to your problem? So any conversation that involves, here's my problem and here's the things I thought might work, but I don't know which one is right, or here's the things I thought would work and here's why I decided they wouldn't. At least there's been some type of problem solving that's gone on before it's made it to me. And that's what and I do the same thing. I don't go to people with hey, here's the problem. I don't know what to do. I mean,
Mhm.
I guess if I was in a situation where I really didn't know what to do, I would say, I've eliminated all of these as options and I don't know what to do now because I'm out of
Mhm.
options. But that's
Yeah.
that's the approach that I coach, and that's the approach I personally take.
Yeah, your approach is spot on, because I talk about the three tools to avoid and minimize cynicism, which is uh, attitude, gratitude, and optimism. And you've alluded to just having a better approach, instead of focusing myopically on, here's the problem, this is the problem. Just, okay, we have a problem. We analyze it, we dissect it. Let's move on to the solution, instead of spending so much time. And just having an optimistic attitude is so critical. I'm always reminded of this anecdote where there are two salespeople that are sent to this remote island. They're shoe salesmen, and they get to the island and they survey the people there, and they send out messages, and they're like, one guy, it's like, this is terrible. Nobody's wearing shoes here. There's no market. The other guy replies, nobody's wearing shoes here. It's a huge market.
Exactly. It's all in your mindset, right? It's all how you look
But
at the problem.
yeah. I mean, we're so we're by default looking for the danger, looking for the negativity, looking for what can kill us, and oftentimes, it requires a intentional attitude to shift from, oh my God, AI is taking our jobs. AI is pretty cool. It's amplifying my job.
Right.
Yeah, I couldn't do the things that I'm able to do right now without AI. Or, oh, there's a change in leadership. Oh, this is terrible. I'm like, I don't know. The leader was pretty terrible. Wouldn't it? Isn't it great that they're trying to change that? It's
Yeah.
just a simple shift in attitude has a tremendous effect on, lowering the cynicism and really increasing the morale. And
Yeah.
I mean, gratitude and optimism, I think we know exactly what they do.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I find myself, and as it relates to gratitude, it's something that I really try to focus on, largely because, so I'm 53, and it occurred to me a couple of years ago that I'm not actually going to live forever like I thought I was gonna. I was pretty certain I was going to live forever, and then I got to a certain age, and turns
Oh,
out I'm wrong. I am actually going to die at some point.
I haven't gotten to that age yet. I'm still living forever.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you,
I'm
thank
glad you
you.
get to live forever. Congratulations.
One more
Um,
year or so.
exactly. So, um, at that point in my life, I said, to your point, like I think it's important to do an inventory every once in a while and just kind of look around and go, hey, what's good, what's not good.
Mhm.
And it turns out that so I've always known that my family is the most important thing to me, and I've always acted like my family is the most important thing to me. So I've never, I didn't, if I wasn't working, I was at home. I didn't go out drinking. I didn't go out screwing around. I didn't go out doing any of those things. I was either at work or I was with my family.
Mhm.
And so we've built a really strong family. So my wife, my three sons, we've got in-laws that are close to us. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. We've got in-laws in Pennsylvania, and I've got a sister in Chicago. So we see family fairly frequently. And I'm so lucky. Like a lot of people never have anyone in their life, and I literally have
Mhm.
dozens of people in my life that genuinely care about me and my well-being. And
That is
so I think about that a lot and just how lucky I am to have that. And my wife and I have talk about it every once in a while. We don't dwell on it at all, but if she passes away before me, I know for a fact I would not ever get married again. Not for a bad reason either, but I've had such a good relationship with her for 33 years. It would be unfair to compare that to anybody else. So like I just
Mhm.
wouldn't do that to somebody. And I always say from like a gambling perspective, I've been playing on house money for a long time because most people don't have a relationship like the one I've had ever. And I've had it for
Mhm.
33 years. I mean, it's insane how long I've had it
That's
so
awesome.
good,
Yeah.
you know? And so I reflect on that a lot. Like even with all the crazy stuff that's gone on in my life, and it hasn't been rainbows and unicorns, right? We've had some tough stuff. Life's kicked me in the teeth a couple of times, like it kicks everyone in the teeth a
Mhm.
couple of times. But one thing I've always had was my relationship and my family. And I'm so grateful for that all the time. And that always like kind of makes everything else like just really not matter to me. It really doesn't
Yeah.
matter to me, because I've got the to me life is about relationships and experiences. And if you're going to focus on stuff, you should focus on relationships and experiences. Totally got it. Some people love making a bunch of money. Good for you. It's not a value judgment. I'm not telling you what to do, but I would be shocked if you're really happy and fulfilled at the end of that road. Not like the same way you would be if you spent more time focusing on
Yeah.
in my world.
That's beautiful. Family relationships since you were 21, your wife, it- the
Mm,
big foundation for your values, and you know it very well, is family. Figure out what are our values, what matters to us, and do a lot of that because that's what's going to give us satisfaction. And um, with gratitude, I always think, especially living here in America, we get acclimated to our environment very easy. I don't think it takes us a lot of time. It's just taking stock of all the awesome things that America offers is should be like a daily practice. It's just like list off all the things that you have. And I'm always reminded of that quote that someone who's healthy wants 1,000 things. Someone who's sick only wants one thing.
mm,
And if you were to just list all the things like, hey, I have my hearing, I have my eyesight, I can walk, I can lift, I can eat, I can like I go hiking here, and it is incredible to see. It's a tough mountain, and there's one guy has one leg, and it's not an easy climb. And he does it with crutches, and I find myself often going uphill. I'm like, this sucks. This is so hard. It's too hot. Why do I do this to me? Why, like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then I see that guy. I'm like, okay, I have it good. I have it good.
Oh my gosh, that is a great, great analogy. I love it. It's actually, I mean, it's your personal experience, but I love that's how you reflect on it. And it's such a good example that we take so much of the good fortune that we have for granted because it's just what we have. And it's so easy to forget there are literally billions of people in the world that would trade places with almost anyone in the United States. And
Right.
we kind of take it for granted. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
I mean, you have people, they're going to their jobs, they're sitting at their desk, they're in meetings, they have a salary coming in that supplies money for their family, their house, their food and everything, and they sit in a meeting in a chair and they're like, this sucks. I hate everything about my life. And I'm like, just take stock of all the great things that are happening and focus more on what you have, focus on the what you have instead of what you lack. And that just primes you for positivity, because the more we're myopically focused on the things that we don't have, then we want them, and we end up in scarcity mode, and we narrow our focus. But
Mm.
there's so much that we have, right? And the more you list all the things that you have, including your health, your wife, your friends, your house, whatever it is, the more you expand your vision, and the more you realize, like, yeah, this is not a bad life.
Oh, such a good message. I love it. So if I think I'm right, you've got the speaking engagements that you do
Mhm.
some coaching, and then you actually offer a course as well. Do I have that right?
I do, yeah. I
Yeah.
my primary focus right now is going into corporations. I especially in today's environment, and I feel like everybody says that there's always the tumultuous time.
Mm.
There, the burnout rates are increasing, so people feel a lot more fatigued. And I want to go into corporation to speak to uh, my older self and pat him on the back and say that you're going to be okay. Just take a deep breath, and let's use some tools that I share with the people. And then I offer some workshops, and I offer consulting with those companies. I also like to speak to larger events, of course, to just share the message that stress isn't always bad. It's just a matter of how we leverage it. And burnout is not a life sentence. We can always head towards it, but we can also steer back.
What yeah, that's great. What's the most common statement or comment you hear from the people you meet after you speak? Like what do you hear most frequently from them?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me what's the most common complaint that I hear about people saying to me, because I'll touch on that and then come
Do
back,
that
because
too. Yeah, do that too.
it's hilarious to me when people say, like, I know I need to work out, but I just don't have enough time. I'm not disciplined, or I don't have there's so much that I need to do that I just can't do it. And there's a level of truth to that yes, we're very busy, but a lot of times we're busy with busy work that's not meaningful work. And oftentimes it's not even about the time management as it is about energy management. Because I don't know if it ever happened to you where you had a day off and you thought to yourself, I'm gonna kill it today. I'm gonna knock out all these different things at home that I've been postponing. And you're like, let me just sit on the couch for a second. and you find yourself a few hours later and Netflix is asking you, are you still watching?
Yeah, Netflix is shaming you. Yes, I've been shamed by Netflix before.
Because
Yes, I'm
because you
still
just,
watching. Shut up.
yeah,
Play the episode.
you're just drained, right? You can have
Yeah,
all the time in the world, you just don't have the right type of energy. And
yeah.
this is where it's very important for us to invest in our health. And that's, I call this the meds, MEDS, your mental energy, the E is for exercise, diet, and sleep. And
Mm,
a lot of people walk around with their energy level at 50%. They start their day just like the phone, uncharged. 7 to 9 hours, it's a must. It's You're thinking that you're saving time by sleeping less, but because you're so lethargic, because you didn't get enough sleep, your productivity diminishes so much that you're better off sleeping because you can get a lot more done in less time if you're sleeping.
mm.
Exercise is like it's the best pill, right? It's an anti-depression pill. People don't want to hear it, and they tell me that they're not disciplined enough to do it. I always chuckle at that excuse because they're very disciplined in walking into their office, completing their projects, doing their doing, doing what their manager asked them to do in the time that they need to do. They're very disciplined when it comes to their work because they're forced to do it. If they were willing to invest in their health, they would be a lot more productive and a lot more happy. Exercise has been proven, right, to just boost morale and boost your energy. And I might just go on a rant now. And the biggest and most important one is the mental energy. As we have, what our brain is 2, 3 pounds, but it consumes 20% of our total energy in a day.
Mm.
What do? It's like an alt what is it? A mass bombardment of information that we consume every single day, and we're wondering why we cannot focus.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I need to find out what happened in the last 30 seconds with this latest news. And we're constantly diverting our energy in so many directions that by the time we need to focus on the things that matter, we're no longer doing that important work because we're tired. And that mental energy is such a precious resource that people need to be more intentional of putting down their screens and really focusing on the things that matter. Now, I
Oh
got
my gosh.
I
I
got on a
love that.
rant, but that's
No, it's such good stuff. It's such good stuff, and you're so right. You on the meds, so mental, exercise, diet, sleep. I've
Mhm.
heard. I love this statement, and I can't remember where I heard it from, but I know it's absolutely accurate. Food is the most abused drug in the world, and exercise is the least prescribed antidote in the world.
Love it.
A lot of what is wrong with all of us could be fixed by a good diet and regular
Mhm.
exercise. Like our whole mental and physical outlook will do a complete 180 from where we're at if we just do that on a
Yep.
consistent basis. And guess what? All of that is entirely within your control, whether you want to admit that or not, right? There's nobody in
Mhm.
your car pointing a gun at you saying, "Hey, pull over to that McDonald's over there and get a number one meal," right? No,
Mhm.
nobody's forcing you to do that. I wish I could make that excuse. It's just not true. And nobody's saying stay on the couch instead of go for a walk or ride your bike or work in the garden or go hiking or go golfing or go sailing or go whatever that's
Mhm.
outdoors that creates physical activity. Those are all options we all have available to us. And we're so
Mhm.
quick to dismiss it like we're completely powerless on our environment or our choices. It's wild.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can go
Um,
back to your question if you want to.
please.
What most people ask me, I get this quite often where people misunderstand my message that I somehow tell, where I also reference the idea of setting boundaries in whatever you're doing in life and at work, where it's important to have the ability to say no, to stop being a people pleaser, because that's how you put too much on your plate. And
Yeah.
sometimes it gets misunderstood with this notion that, oh, then I'm saying that you should stop working at 5:00 when there's a high priority project. And that's not what I'm saying. And some people ask me like, what do you do? What do you do when there's so much work? And to that, I always answered to them that I once knew a project manager who had a multi-year project that was winding down. So
Hmm.
she was she was on fire for months, like going hard,
In
working
the in
extra.
the in the crucible nonstop for a long time.
Yeah, she was there
Yeah.
for a long time, and she so got used to that rhythm that when the project started winding down, she went to the manager and said, "Hey, what else do you want me to do?" And the manager looked at her and said, "Never ever ask me that again." And I'm like, "Really? A manager would never say that?" Okay. But then he proceeded to say that, in our work, we have high tides and low tides.
Mm.
And when the high tide comes in, and there is a lot of work, there's a lot of work that people are dealing with, and there's a lot of pressure and stress to perform. And sometimes we have to perform at our best. I remember I was I was working on a project with a big customer, and I was driving with my wife to Mexico, towards Mexico, going on vacation on a Saturday. And I was with my headphones and my laptop taking notes and working because it was the lines down for this major phone. And we had to be on the call to try to resolve the issue. And I
Hmm.
was okay with that as long as we know that that's the high tide. And when the low
Right.
tide comes in, we really need to rest. And this is where people get in trouble because they feel like they always have to go at 100%. And that's when we get in trouble because that's when we don't give ourselves time to relax for a second, to recuperate, to get that nurturing sleep, to get the right food, to go and exercise and move our body, to unwind and look at the beautiful things that are happening in the world. Because that's what the manager said. It's like, as there's always a high tide and a low tide, don't worry, the high tide always comes back. But we need to
Right.
we need to take advantage of the low tide. And this is something that a lot of people have a hard time just getting used to, not necessarily always pushing themselves all the way.
Yeah, I actually have a personal experience like that in my past. So I worked at for a long time, about 15 years, the largest grocery wholesaler in the country. And getting groceries to grocery stores is a nonstop thing. Like, grocery stores constantly need to replenish their inventory. They need fresh meat, they need fresh produce, all those things. And we bought the assets of a company that went bankrupt. It was a big company. It was like $11 billion company. We bought the assets. And so we had to integrate these assets into our portfolio. And they had
Mhm.
warehouses and geographies that we'd never operated in before. And their headquarters were 2,000 miles away. So they put together, the company I work for put together a small group of people that was going to go down and run this integration. And to this
Mhm.
day, I have no idea why I was included in this group because it was a bunch of like EVPs and SVPs, and I was a buyer at the time. And so I was like 6 levels below everybody else that went
Uh-huh.
on this trip. But for whatever reason, they called me and said, "We need you to go here. We don't know when you're coming back." My kids were, gosh, what were my kids at that point? My kids would have been 9, 7, and 5. And I just
Mhm.
got a call that said, "Hey, pack a bag. You're leaving tomorrow." And we don't know how long you're going to be there. It could be months. And so,
Okay.
well, you do what you got to do. I was building a career and I was trying to provide for my family and blah, 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 like you just
That's
talked
the high
about.
tide.
It's
Yeah,
high
that's the
tide.
high
That's
tide.
exactly right.
Right.
Tide was coming in, and that was what it was. And it was more of a tsunami than a high tide, this particular situation. And so I was fortunate that the company allowed me to fly home every weekend and fly back. So I would fly home Friday night and I would fly back to where I was Sunday night. Or actually, I would go early Monday morning because of the time change. I was getting 2 hours when I left to
Hmm.
go. So, like, I could leave at 6 o'clock and get there at 7 o'clock in the morning. But I did that for 3 months. I was there for 3 months where like my wife was essentially a single mom with 3 young boys and I wasn't helping at all because even when I was home, I was doing their activities and I was getting the stuff caught up that I needed to do for our house and all that jazz.
Hmm.
And on coming out the backside of that, same deal. Like I got back and they literally, the company was growing a lot and they literally had boxed up my office. All my stuff was in boxes when I got back. I was like, hey, I thought I did a good job. What are you trying to tell me something here? And like, no, we needed your office because we hired some more people. So we knew you weren't going to be here. So we took your office. But they gave me a pretty substantial bonus and
Hmm.
they said, take 2 weeks and spend it with your family. And I was like, what do you mean? Take like we're right in the middle of this. They're like, no, we got the big stuff done. You're good. Go do what you got to do.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And so I always likened it to that company was kind of like being in the mafia, where you if you were a part of the group, and there was probably about 200 of us that ran that company. And but if you were in that group, like all bets were off. If your phone rang, you did what they told you on that call. But by the same token, like my wife and my three kids were in a really bad car accident in 2005. They were driving down, it's hard to explain, but they were driving down a 2-lane highway in the middle of nowhere. And someone took a left turn into the side of her car while she was going 60 miles an hour. And
Oh,
so the
wow.
car flipped and rolled and all the other stuff. My wife was thrown out
Oh,
of the,
no.
yeah, it was serious. She was thrown out. The windshield broke and kind of got ejected, and she went out through the hole where the windshield was. And she landed on an island, like a highway island of grass. So she wouldn't have made it if she hadn't landed on that grass.
Terrible. Uh-huh.
And so I got that call and I drove to the hospital. When I did that, I passed her car that was all mangled. And I was like, oh, this is serious. And I got to the hospital, and all of my sons were sitting at one table and they were okay. Like you could see that they were physically okay. They were all buckled in and they were fine. And then I got over to my wife and it was clear she was not okay. She was white, she was shaking, she was in shock. She's fine now. Like everything turned out okay, but it was serious, you know. And I didn't know what was going on. So the first thing I did once I figured out what was going on is I just called my boss. This was a Saturday night. And I said, hey, and this will show you, like, I know I've got my priorities right. I called my boss and I said, hey, my family was in a serious car accident. I don't know when I'm coming back to work. So, like, I'll call you with more information, but I have no idea when I'm coming back to work. I wanted to let you know. I didn't ask. I didn't, I wasn't, hey, I'll let you know. It was like, I'll tell you what the situation is, but nothing, you're getting nothing from me until I know this is okay. And the next morning, and at this point, I was still just like a buyer. I wasn't anyone important in the company
Hmm.
in terms of position. They did a good job of valuing people, but in terms of position, I didn't have any rank or power at that point. But the president of the company called me the next morning and said, what do you need? And I said, well, I think, everything's okay. He's like, no, you don't understand what I'm asking. He said, you've got three young boys. I know your wife was hurt. So do you need someone to come live at your house? Do you need us to deliver groceries? Do you need a car service? So that was the flip side of, hey, do whatever we tell you whenever we tell you. Like they were still, human beings and they were decent about that stuff. But to your point, if you live in that high tide environment for too long, it's going to get you.
Yeah.
Like you can't do it forever. It's not good.
I mean, that's a wild story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad she's okay. I mean, this is it makes me think of the stress. The That's why I was saying that stress is not necessarily bad for you. It's these type of events in our lives that are challenging us. They're actually meant to make us more resilient.
Mm.
And I'm sure that traumatic event probably brought your family even closer together because you had to huddle up and help your wife in the situation that she was in. So adversity is it has two sides, right? Is you can look at it as this sucks, but also you have that shift in attitude, right? Where you're thinking this sucks, but this is also something that is going to bring us closer together.
Yeah,
Um,
it's funny. I remember like right standing next to her. She was funny. The first thing she said was, "It wasn't my fault," and I said, "I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if it was your fault. I just want you to
right,
live. Just live."
right.
Literally, that's what I said to her. Just live.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
Um, So I've always understood that, like, it's always been the most important thing to me. Always. It's never been clouded in my head, even with all the other crazy stuff
Mhm.
that's going on in our life. And that's where the gratitude comes from. That's where, like, I just know how lucky I am to have the life that we've built together. And to your point, I love your story about taking the hike and, like, this sucks and I'm tired. And then you see the guy with the crutches and you're like, oh, I gotta check my head. I got this wrong right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's cool that your company did that because it makes me think of, there's some managers that are fantastic that, they someone takes vacation and they look to help the person who takes vacation enjoy the vacation.
Yeah,
But there are some managers that, when you go on vacation and you have to check your email every day, and then you're answering emails, and you're like, oh my God, I'm coming back, and it's more work, and you cannot relax because you know that by the time 2 weeks pass or a week that you're on Hawaii beach and trying to relax, and you're coming back and you're like, this was the most stressful vacation, and you know that that's not a good manager and not a good place to work in.
for sure. Yeah, and I've been there too. Like, I've been in those situations as well. So, like, life's not all rainbows and unicorns for sure.
Yeah.
The course that you offer, walk us through a little bit about the course that you offer.
Sure. It's that one. I'm still massaging the format a little bit. I know it. I think I say that it's a 7 week, but I think people need a lot more accountability. But it's a process that I went through when I got on my journey. When my wife nudged me into that discovery mode and having more of self-aware and taking ownership of my life. So it's broken down in a few weeks. So what it's meant to do is the first week we just become aware of all of these limitations that we have. And then you walk through the mindset, the pivot of the mindset, that the thing that, oh, I can do only so much, to you can do so much. And that's a rewiring of the brain. And I talk about, you probably know this, but 95% of our actions, thoughts, and behaviors, they're all at a subconscious level. Like
Mm,
I don't think about this hand moving. It just happens automatically. We get out of the bed in the same time, we the same way, we brush our teeth the same way, we drive to work the same way. All of those are done automatically, subconsciously. And then 5% happens consciously. Well, because we're prone towards negativity, what happens is we wake up and we automatically start thinking about our problems. And we start dwelling on all the things that we have to do, all the balls that we have to juggle in our day, and that sends us on a spiral, on a negative spiral. So becoming aware of those negative thoughts is a very crucial thing to do in our process of becoming more aware of what's beneficial and what's detrimental. And I know this was during my days too, after my burnout and just being lost. I was telling myself every morning, like, my boss is out to get me. I hate my job. I'm so tired. This sucks. Well, if you repeat that over and over again, it becomes a reality. It just becomes your truth. So what we need to do is flip it around and be like, okay, I know subconsciously I have this bad thoughts. How do I rewire them? So you start off with intentional gratitude, intentional CBT, like you said. What's the worst thing that can happen? What's the best thing that can happen? Let's focus on the best thing that can happen. So it's a program where we go in and rewire our negative thoughts to where now we're pivoting into positivity. We're becoming more aware of the things that we want. Um, the follow-up in the program is uh, identifying our core values,
mm,
because a lot of times we want certain things in our lives, but we want them for the wrong reason. Like my American dream was because of my parents. it took me a while to really know what matters to me. Like I value health, I value structure, I value growth, I value spreading the word and sharing with others what I've learned, helping a community. And I wasn't aware of all of those things. So having a deep dive on what is the things that matter to us and really creating our identity and our values, I call it an identity card, is crucial in then figuring out what is that passion that we want for ourselves. And then it's you have the things that you want, and then you have to take action. And then in the following weeks, we work on taking action, creating a clear plan. We have a macro plan. I'm sure you have a vision for your life, Joe.
I
You
do.
know what
Sure. You bet.
you know what the big picture is, but when you look at the big picture, it's kind of like hiking a tall mountain. It's terrifying. You're like, I don't want to, it's too tall. I don't want to hike that one. So we create the big picture, but then we have to look at what are we have the macro, but then we have to think at the micro level. Like, what are you doing in the next 3 months? What are you doing in the next 3 weeks? What are you doing in the next 3 days? What are you doing in the next 3 hours? So dissecting that will help someone just get momentum going on the things that they care about, kind of letting go of the things that they don't want to, the ones that they worry about, letting those go, and thinking about how they can take charge of their lives so that they execute towards the big picture. And then after that, there's homework in between, and I do accountability. So after that, it takes X amount of weeks. It all depends on how big the goals are for someone. X amount of weeks to execute on those plans that they have for themselves, and I keep them accountable. So those following weeks, we keep accountability groups.
Wow, that's awesome. That sounds like such a great experience for people. And it's funny you talked when you listed out your goals and the things that are important to you, not one of them is material. And I think, at least from my perspective, that's maturity speaking and that's
Mhm.
life experience speaking, right? Because I've been there. I've chased stuff. I've wanted the nice car. I've wanted the big house. I've wanted all that stuff. I'm
Same.
certainly not,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not immune to it. I always say I don't throw stones because I live in a glass house. So it's not my place to judge people or tell
Yes.
people what to do. However, again, I'm 53. I've convinced a fucking awesome woman to stick around with me for 33 years. I raised three good men who are productive members of society now. I have learned a thing or two about life in my time on the earth. And to me, it's important to share that and try to help people
Mhm.
along with that. And one of the things I love about the podcast is I get to meet such interesting people. And we have you're a great example. We attract really high caliber people on the podcast, and they're so willing to share their stories and educate our viewers on what they've learned in their lives. And
Mhm.
some of it can get really heavy. We've had several people, and some of these episodes have aired, and some of them have not aired yet. But we've had people who suffered sexual abuse when they were young children. We've had some people who have lost children.
Mhm.
And I can't think of a worse thing in the world to happen than lose one of your children as a parent. And one of the things that's really important to them is to help other people because usually when they're willing to come on the podcast and talk about it, they're far enough down the road that they've developed some coping mechanisms and they've been able to build a new life after the terrible event that's happened to them. And one of the things we see in common with all of them, I mean, to a person, is they really want to help other people. And
Mhm.
they actually get so much out of it themselves by helping other people. And I think that's one of the things we try to stress all the time on the podcast is if you really want to achieve an awesome life, focus on helping other people and your life will become immeasurably awesome. And
Mhm.
it's so counterintuitive because you would think, I want to focus on me and I want to focus on my stuff and I want to focus on me, when your life actually gets really big and when you can really be grateful for everything that you have, it's when you're focused externally, not
Mhm.
internally. So I love what you said, and it just validates what we see so much on the podcast.
Yeah, it is a fascinating process because my wife and I we don't have kids. So I think I hit my midlife crisis quite early in my life, that burnout phase. And then I think there's a level of maturity that people go through, and they get to a certain age where they want to leave something behind, like impart all the wisdoms, the wounds, the scars that they've had in their lifetime, and they want to contribute in one way or another to a better world. And I, you know, I hear this over and over again, and I try to live by it. And I agree with you. The more I get to help someone, the better I feel, and it's it's been coming back multifold every time I help someone. It's just I don't know if it's karma or whatever it is, but it's very fulfilling to be able to share wisdom with others and help them in whatever way.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, so one of the things we do on the podcast is clearly I ask a lot of questions and I'm curious about stuff. And, thank you so much for coming on and sharing everything you've shared with the audience to this point. But I like to open the floor up and say, is there something I haven't asked you that's super important that you want to talk about? Or is there a subject or topic that you really want to make sure you share with our listeners before we wrap up? So essentially the floor is yours. What do you want to
Yeah.
talk about?
Actually, I do want to bring up one thing because my burnout talk, I have a 3F plus one formula. So the 3F is fuel, fire, and focus, which we already touched on in one way. Fuel is the energy, and we talked about it. Fire is that fire that helps you burn bright and joyful. So the suppression of cynicism and increase of optimism. Focus is about the control. But there's plus one. There's one more thing, and we've alluded to it, but I want to make sure that I share this with you and your audience, is the mindset around stress. Because burnout, as the definition, is a state of mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion due to a continuous exposure to stress. And when people hear that, they say, well, I'm going to do everything in my power to avoid stress. And I say, yes, but it's a little more complicated. And we've talked about this throughout the podcast, right? We've had our challenges and we had those stressful moments in our lives that they they made us better. Stress is not something that we should avoid, but it's actually something that we need to embrace. And there's the bad stress, the one where you're going on that high tide nonstop for a long, long period. And that's the one that puts you over the edge. But then there's the acute stress, which is the one that's highly beneficial. Standing up and doing a presentation, speaking up in a meeting, or dealing with your wife or your job. That one it's intense, it's stressful, it's a period of it, but you're also learning a lot from it. So that one is not over an extended period of time, but it's short bursts. And to me, it was fascinating because I've kind of learned this the hard way, right? You just learn through life. And
Mm,
then I found this awesome study that showed that they surveyed 2,400 people all over United States over 4 years, and they tested them from uh, adversities, losing a job, divorce, death in a family, all these different things, a wide range of life challenges that are stressful. And what they found out is that there's a U curve. There's a U curve. So on one extreme is that acute stress, that high tide, where you're now dealing with the illness that is permanent, that's very damaging to you. That can lead to burnout, or you're constantly into this stressful job that never lets off. That can lead to burnout. That's on one side of the U curve. And then there's the other one where we avoid stress, where we're trying to avoid any kind of confrontation, any kind of challenge, anything that's in any way remotely stressful or pressure. And that one is also highly detrimental
Mm,
because if you don't choose your hard, hard has a life has a way of choosing it for you.
totally. Yes.
It's like
Yes.
if you think that you can escape life, there's no way. And when you try to avoid stress at any cost, life will hit you and it hurts a lot more. So really, that's where I really found my strides too, with running the marathons, with pushing myself, speaking in front of audiences, even though it's stressful for me. I know that in that bell of the U is where growth happens, where progress happens, where we become more resilient. We're learning how to live through life adversity, and that's where the ultimate growth is. And that study highlights that in the U, where we embrace stress, is where life happens, and it's the best life, where we go from feeling burned out on the edges to burning bright.
Oh my gosh, what a great message. That's you said that so well. And yeah, I'm just gonna say you said that so well and leave it at that. Great
Yeah,
job. Great job.
fantastic.
Man, what a great conversation. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing everything with the audience. And like we talked about, guys, we will put all of Shaban's links in the show notes. So you can get to his website, you can take the test on stress, you can check out his program. If you want to engage him as a speaker, you'll be able to do that there as well. And yeah, just thank you so much for coming on. It was so great to have you on. I love your message. I love what you're doing, and congratulations on your success.
Thank you. Yeah, if anybody wants to reach me, I'm always on LinkedIn, a little too much, talking about being not too much on my phone on technology. But I appreciate the chat, Joe. This was wonderful, and you're a great host.
Oh, thanks. I really appreciate the kind words. Thanks for coming on. You
Yeah,
did a great job.
fantastic. Great to be
All
here.
right. Thanks, Shaban.
Awesome.
Okay, we're good. Thank you so much. You did it. You were
Cool.
great. I love your message. Love it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm
Yep.
glad. Yeah, like I said, it's easy when someone knows how to ask great questions.
Well, look, yeah, you did like you're so good at it. And I love the fact that at one point you were afraid of speaking and now you're literally doing it for a living. I think it's such a
Mhm.
powerful message for the audience. And for what it's worth, you do a great job of it. You're very captivating, you're well spoken, and I love how you weave stories in and empirical evidence. It's not, hey, this is my opinion. There's a lot of data and science that are backing these things up, and you do a really good job of kind of presenting that in a way that's
Thank
easy
you.
for listeners to understand. So,
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I lived it, and then I read so many books to just confirm or just get a different perspective. I'm like, that study, that's exactly what I've noticed. Yes, it's awesome to have some backing instead of just I lived it. This is me, so you should do it the same way. No, no,
it's
no.
me on this one,
There's
guys. I
actually
know what I'm talking about.
there's actually data that shows it. So as an engineer, I always like that.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Hey, James, I know you're on mute, but do we know this episode will air at some point in mid-July, if I remember our calendar right. Do you know offhand when we're going to air it? He'll come back on. He's lurking in the background somewhere.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, either way, you can send me an email.
Yeah, we'll send you a link so we'll give you the whole episode, so you'll have the file for the episode. So if you want to post it,
Oh,
if you want to make short clips from it, you'll have all that available to you
fantastic.
once James gets done putting it together, and then we'll pull your bio information and your links off of your website because we've got that from your original submission.
Mhm.
Do we have a headshot from you, or is there a headshot you want us to use when we promote your episode?
I can send it to you if I don't if I haven't. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have a headshot. I can
Yeah,
share it. No
just
problem.
send us that, and then we can get the rest of it off your website. Because, like I said, I went through your website to be prepared for our conversation. So there's good stuff on there. Good stuff.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. looking to make an impact. It is just trying
No,
to
for sure. Yeah, no,
trying
I
to help
love it.
people.
I love it. Yeah. And yeah, we're fortunate. What we've, since we opened this up and started doing these interviews, our podcast has taken off. So, we're just seeing, thousands and thousands of views and subscribers and all sorts of stuff. So it's resonating with
That's
people.
awesome.
So people are hungry for what we're doing here.
Yeah, and it's podcasts. I don't know. They're always great because you don't have to be like fully engaged. It's just it feels like it's a conversation that you're just partaking. So, and I like the format because often you end up just scratching the surface because you're like, oh, 40 minutes is the max that we can do.
Right.
This one is just it's I don't even know, about an hour and a half.
See, that's the thing. I tell people all the time before they come on that our conversations tend to last between an hour and a half and 2 hours. Like, oh, that's a long time. And I'm like, I'm telling you, when you come on, it's not going to feel like a long time. Like, you'll be shocked. We'll be talking and
Yeah,
you look up and you'll be an hour and a half in, and you won't even know it. So, yeah,
yeah.
great stuff. Really appreciate
When the
it.
conversation flows, time flies by.
Exactly. Exactly. So, well, thanks again,
Okay.
Serban. Really appreciate it.
Likewise, Joe. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was awesome to talk to you. Yeah.
You as well. I enjoyed our
Yeah.
conversation.
We'll
So,
keep in touch.
yeah, shoot me that headshot. We'll let you know when the episode is going on. And yeah, let's keep in touch. We could do this again sometime down the road. Okay, guys, like we said, we keep having these awesome guests come on, and Shaban's no exception. Loved his stories, loved how he talked about his family in Romania and some of the things that they did to survive when the country switched from communism to a new political system. Talked about building his life in America and talked about how he worked his way up through the corporate world and talked about how he discovered through his wife kind of pushing him saying, hey, something's off, and kind of went on a self-discovery process and has turned that into a really successful career in speaking, in coaching, and consulting with people about burnout and how to fix that burnout. So really appreciate him coming on. Remember, we're going to put his links down in the show notes. So if you want to book him as a speaker, you can do that down there. If you want to take the test on stress on his website, you can do that down there. If you want to sign up for his course, you can do that down there as well. So really appreciate Serban coming on and sharing his information and his lessons with us. He did a great job. Really happy to have him on the podcast. So don't forget, James puts it up over here every day. Head over to our website, SaltyGingerTalk.com. All of our episodes are available there. Links to all our social media accounts are available there. We publish a newsletter every weekday you can subscribe to on our website. And please like, share, comment, and subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you consume it on. Keep having great guests. You don't want to miss what they have to say. Make sure you check out the next episode. We will see you there.